Okay, what we'll do is still continue with the health effects and go a little bit beyond a few things that we talked about. If you recall, we had given you some idea about the lung functions and things like that. Okay, and the vital thing was to understand was that the parameters which are quickly affected because of air pollution were three: PEFR, peak expiratory flow rate. Okay, the second parameter was FVC, forced vital capacity, that is the capacity of lungs. Okay, and third one was FEV1. Okay, that is forced expiratory volume in 1 second. Okay, I also showed you the spirometry. Okay, I also showed you the volume time curve, if you recall. Okay, that's very important. And I also showed you that how the air pollution, at least the results as to how it affects the lung performance and the lung function. Okay, slightly we'll go more into the details. Oxygen is important, of course. It can cause breathlessness, it can cause headache, dizziness, irritability, nausea, vomiting, mental fatigue, okay, bluish sting and skin, nail, lips, and even death. So oxygen is important, and oxygen, the body needs oxygen, and the mechanism through which oxygen is transferred is through the lungs. As the lung performs, like poorly, okay, so it's not only the lung which gets affected, it can affect your entire body, because then oxygen transfer will not be much, and as a result it can affect even other vital organs. Okay, from air pollution we see the direct effect of onto the lungs also. People have directly correlated the cardiovascular diseases with the air pollution, disease of the lungs with the air pollution. People have even said that many of the heart attacks could be indirectly because of the air pollution. People have reported enlarged hearts, okay, in the areas where the air pollution is high. But health issues generally associated with lungs are, we had discussed about COPD, we discussed a little bit about asthma, pneumonia, lung cancer, tuberculosis, and genetically induced things. When we talk about the air pollution, we normally stick to these two things. Okay, but the point is, and we'll see, is that once you have the problem caused because of the air pollutants, what happens is your lung capacity, not only in terms of the vital capacity as we are seeing, the capacity of the lung to fight the other foreign elements, which are largely the bacteria and virus, that also goes down. Okay, once that goes down, your lung, which becomes very prone and will become very easy to be attacked by the microorganisms. As a result, it is also, tuberculosis, as we all know, is a bacterial disease, okay, treatable. But then people are now correlating even tuberculosis to air pollution, not directly but indirectly, because that could also be, that has been found higher in the areas where the air pollution was higher. And we'll see some of these things. Okay, and then you can see all things can affect the lung: dust, cigarette smoking, microorganisms, malfunction of the body fluids, and genetically induced mechanism, which of course depends on the individual or the particular case. Fine. Now what about the other pollutants? What they do, we will also see very briefly, not so much in details, is fine particulate matter, respiratory system, carbon monoxide. You all have studied in higher school, but very briefly we will touch upon this. Oxygen and sulfur dioxide. Okay, it also affects the lung cleansing mechanism. Okay, and then they also affect the lung, but they also make the lung reduce in terms of its ability to fight with other issues. Hazardous pollutants, we'll see what happens is this pollutants, which are they in the gaseous form, but they could be in the particulate form, which we have not studied so much, SO2, beyond SO2, NO2. They are attached with the particulate matter and reaches in the lung, and also sometimes get across the lung into the bloodstream. So that part also we should have some idea, not as the toxicologist, but we should know. So again, these are the issues with the lung cancer, tuberculosis, COPD, asthma. And COPD and asthma are largely responsible because of air pollution. Certainly COPD, but asthma may not be directly related to air pollution, but higher air pollution level can trigger asthmatic attacks. Okay, and that's what it is. So many times people who has asthma, they would be advised, well, you don't live in polluted area. I mean, asthma, they may have the asthma, even people have the asthma in very clean area also. Okay, because that they have. But they are somehow exposed to a higher concentration, the asthmatic attacks become very common. And the people who have the asthma, they are few days, like they'll be off the work and things like that. So, what our lungs are doing is pulmonary ventilation, that is inflow and outflow of air between the atmosphere and lungs. It also is responsible not only in and outflow, it is also responsible for the diffusion of oxygen and CO2 between lung and blood. Okay, that's very important. Transport of oxygen and CO2 in the blood and body fluids to and from the cells. This is the lung cell. That we'll see how it happens, so that we have the clarity. This picture I showed you last time. Okay, but I want to show it again. Okay, not very clear as I see it here. Okay, so basically this is your alveolar sacs, this one like a pocket here. Okay, and across this, okay, these are your blood streams. Okay, and the alveolus. Okay, so the oxygen goes in there. Okay, the CO2 comes here and CO2 is driven out. There are many other things. Okay, we'll talk about these things a little later. Okay, and this is very important from the protection of the lungs, and that's called macrophages. Maybe you like to remember this thing. Macrophages. And we'll see its role in a moment, but just see your particles can reach right up to here. Okay, and the interesting thing you will see, the gases. Okay, particulates generally, okay, there are ways they can even get across the bloodstream, but particulates generally cannot go. But you see the gaseous pollutants that are going in there and which are reaching up to this place will obviously get across and go to the bloodstream. Like the way the oxygen is going, this is simply a membrane. If the more partial pressure is there, that will go this side. If your pollution level is high in your air that you are breathing, and there's a gaseous form, that also will get across and go to the lungs, go to the bloodstream, and then it will be transported to various parts. And then it may not affect some part, but it may affect some other parts. So even the gaseous pollutants will go. And the most important gaseous pollutant which get across is the carbon monoxide. Okay, as you will recall, that carbon monoxide is very unreactive gas. Nothing happens to this one. So even if some other gases, we'll see them, they are sometimes not even able to reach deeper because they react. For example, ozone, highly reactive. Like you won't expect ozone to go all the way down here. Before that, ozone will destroy itself or destroy what it wants to destroy itself as well as destroy something else in between. So hardly there is a possibility of the ozone reaching here. But carbon monoxide, yes. So carbon monoxide will affect in the bloodstream. So let's see that one. There's a little animation I had. You might just nothing from air pollution point of view. Then at the bottom, there's also part of the lung respiratory system is also the diaphragm. And then you can also see the air coming in, and then the dirty air goes out. And then, as I told you last time, this is called trachea. Okay, and then these are called bronchials. Okay, so which one is the left bronchial? Which is the right bronchial? This is the left bronchial, right? And this is the right bronchial. Something very similar. So whatever the problem if you have here, which related to the bronchial thing, okay, is called bronchitis, where you have the problem with the breathing and the constriction. Okay, we'll see how the constriction happens in the bronchitis. Okay, so largely the effect what we see is in this one, but then we cannot say that air pollution do not affect. It can even affect the cardiovascular system, and once something is in the bloodstream, okay, that can also affect the nervous system and the other systems. So let's not be let's be clear that largely it is this area, but the others also are affected. The CO, as we are talking about, particulate matter we have discussed a little bit, but CO is a hemoglobin issue. We all know about that, so we will just touch upon these. But the other issues of the oxides and nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, is it affects your lung cleansing. It affects a very the mechanism of the lung through which lung can keep itself healthy. Okay, and as a result, the other problems will happen, and we'll see, and we also will see some of the hazardous pollutants, what effects they can cause. Let's talk about the carbon monoxide. Okay, CO binds with the hemoglobin at the same sites as oxygen, you all know, but with the affinity of hemoglobin, okay, which is a hemoglobin is what? Hemoglobin is a protein, right? And it has the sites where the oxygen can be attached, CO can be attached, and even CO2 can be attached. Okay, so so otherwise, you know, like if the if oxygen don't attach with this one, with the hemoglobin, oxygen will not be transported, okay, in the form that body needs. So what happens once you have this carbon monoxide? You see here, when with so much of the partial pressure of the oxygen, you have some hemoglobin saturation with the oxygen, 40%, 60%, and even if you have little CO, okay, and quickly it can saturate the sites, okay, it can maybe something similar to this. Not exactly in molecular form, but the sites, maybe CO2, maybe CO. So almost, you know, the oxygen cannot take place. The interesting part of the body is, okay, as the blood goes into the various parts and various organs, you know, it is balancing the things, you know. It takes the oxygen, and as oxygen is consumed, it attaches CO2 with it, okay, and there is no way in between, okay, in the body that this CO2 can break off and become free. Okay, interesting part of the body where I am not a biologist. We all just need to know, you know, at the level. But moment it reaches the hemoglobin reaches at the lung site, okay, it sets the CO2 free. Okay, and CO2 can go across and oxygen can come in. Whereas suppose I am talking about some part of the knee or something, it will not let CO2 go away. The hemoglobin will continue. I'm sorry. It will not. Yes, it will not let the CO2 go away. CO2 will still be associated because CO2 is also produced in the body. The CO2 is set free. The partial pressure of the CO2 in the blood will go up. Okay. So it's only when it comes to the lungs. Okay. The hemoglobin can set off the CO2 free. CO2 can go out and oxygen can come in, and the oxygen can take the sites of this, and your blood is purified. So because of this, the problem is that the CO is, you can, in fact the effect of the CO is seen in terms of what is this CO saturation level at the hemoglobin sites. Okay, if more and more, if this situation, it's a death because there is no oxygen that is there. Okay, so what you see, CO is extremely toxic because it destroys the oxygen carrying capacity. Lethal concentration in like 50% in the rats is this kind of ppm for 4 hours. That is a standard. What you really need to see about the CO is, what should I say? When the oxygen is not there, it affects the brain very quickly. Okay, because other parts may still be working, but you lose your, you know, the senses. Okay, once it goes in the brain, you feel more dizzy. Okay, so in a way, suppose this room is filled with SO2. I'm sure I'll stop you. You guys, you don't go away from here. You will not listen to me, and you'll just break the door and go away because it's so irritating, so pungent, and you feel so suffocated. But problem with carbon monoxide is not suffocating. It doesn't feel anything in the life. You would rather feel, oh, I'm feeling very dizzy. Let me have a little, you know, break or nap or something in the life. And then as a result, the first thing affected is brain because that oxygen is not reaching. So you lose your own control, and then as a result, like suppose you are driving or you are doing something very important thing, you are working the machine, then you may probably end up doing an accident, okay. And then the problem is that it doesn't give any warning, and you might still be affected from CO, okay. If suppose for some heating purposes, or there are the accidents that occur, okay. Accident can never occur because of SO2 or ozone or NO2 for that matter. But in the houses, sometimes, like the power is gone, people are using the generators, for example, or the small stoves or little sigidis as we call them, like, because in the cold weather, okay, let's keep it there, and then you think that little temperature will be there, and CO will build up, and you will not leave the room, and you will feel rather sleepy and dizzy, and then you probably will sleep and sleep forever, okay. That is what is issues with the CO. Whereas with the other gases, like, you will escape and you will try to run away from there. The first thing is, suppose somebody a little unconscious, you bring him in the air which is cleaner, and like, take him out from the room. Don't try to treat him right inside the room if that is the case, like. So many times people, those, the ventilation system is not good, which is not good in the winter anyway. The people, we all hear about that people die because of the carbon monoxide and things like that. So this is what is the issue. It's all there in the literature, in the book, what level, at what levels, what is happening, how your response time and your reaction time goes down with the exposure and things like that. And I'll pass on the handouts to you, but let's not spend so much time on this one, but you know that one. See, the funny part with oxygen and oxides of nitrogen, okay, let me tell you, we all know by this time the two issues of NO and NO2. No effects. It doesn't cause any problem in the body. NO2, lots of effects. And largely it is in the upper part of the lungs where NO2 causes a problem. What is that problem it is causing? It affects the very function of the mucociliary mechanism through which you are generating, the mucus and the cilia. So it can affect the cilia, and you see little, it's like a brush, the particles and the things are there. It's keep on moving, like the way your hair is blowing when you are in the wind is blowing, your hair moves, so is the cilia is moving. And then the mucus is there. Some particles will be trapped in the mucus, okay, but it very much affects this mucociliary mechanism itself, okay, the NO2. As a result, the capacity to fight is gone. Other thing what it does is, we are going to the same thing where the oxygen transfer was taking place. You see the macrophages. What does a macrophage do? Is that macrophage is a very interesting thing. You have the macrophages is little, it's basically cell kind of structure, and some foreign particles comes, it just traps it, catches it, okay, and it catches it and then it destroys it somehow. If suppose you're exposed to area, you go to a hospital and then a lot of bacterial infection is there, but then if you have your healthy macrophages, you'll just trap them and then make them inactivate, like. So in fact, and this is body mechanism, the person who is living in more polluted area, the body itself will generate more and more macrophages, okay, but then there is a limit up to which it can do, okay. So you will see the person living in a clean area, the macrophages count will be fewer, and you can count these when there is a mechanism, you can drive out somehow this thing outside, through the mechanism, and there is no fluid here, okay, at this level there is no fluid, there is no mucus. Mucus is only on the top of the upper part of the, if here the mucus is there, the death is certain, okay. So this macrophage, so what it does, the oxides of nitrogen, it very much affects the macrophage itself, okay. So once the macrophage is destroyed, the cleansing mechanism of the macrophage leads to accumulation of the bacteria and resulting to pneumonia and tuberculosis, okay. And so this is one of the direct effects of oxide of nitrogen, and we also will see the other effects in a moment. So at that what levels it can, once the thing is there, then it can enhance or aggravate the asthma, it can also cause acute respiratory diseases, increase in chronic bronchitis. Bronchitis again a bacterial infection, which you say. And the standard, like the annual standard in India, and this is annual standard of USEP, and this is Indian standard. At this level, normally the effect is not so significant. So you can see how NOx indirectly, okay, it does affect directly also, but that indirectly it attacks the very mechanism of the defense mechanism of the lungs. Okay, and it also, when you talk about sulfur dioxide, okay, this also is similar. Okay, of course we should not forget that SO2 is an irritant in the lungs, as well as it affects a mucociliary mechanism. What it does, it destroys the cleansing mechanism of our macrophages, leads to accumulation of the bacteria and resulting in the pneumonia and tuberculosis. That also does. But what SO2 can do, SO2 largely is responsible the problem in the upper part, because SO2 is also very reactive gas, and let's see how it happens. These are the levels which I will pass on to you. The mortality levels have gone up, are reported: asthma, acute respiratory diseases, increased chronic bronchitis. Because why the bronchitis? Bronchitis is still the upper part of the lungs, okay, not so deeper part of the lungs, and the standards are there for the safeguard of this one. Okay, I mean for some particles, okay, size of the particles, okay, and where you have the tobacco smoke, okay, the bacterial size, you have the pollen a little larger, okay, but they can also trigger the allergy. Fog, the coal dust, pesticide, flour, which is in this range, red blood cells, the combustion particles are very small, and the fumes, and so this is what is the sizes that you see here, but these particles deposit at different places. This is called extra, up to this one, extra thoracic region, okay, which particles larger than 7 microns will deposit, and this region almost up to the bronchial region, okay, this is called the thoracic region, okay, and the particles with greater than 2.5 and 7 microns, they will be trapped, and the final smaller particles will come in this region, okay, which are greater than 0.45 micron. Particles less than micron are settled in the alveolus or even at the lower end. As I told you last time, these things, the walls are destroyed, okay. When these are destroyed, then the lungs loses elasticity, and if it cannot hold on to something, then it cannot create enough partial pressure. So these become slowly, more and more space become the dead space, okay. As a result, your lung capacity reduces. That's what is the thing. Just to give you a little feel, like the how small the little dot that you cannot see here is a diesel particle, which is in this size range. The diesel particles will go deep in the lungs. This is the hair size, okay, that's about 15 micron, about close to 15 micron. So give you to feel that how these diesel particles, okay. The other problem with diesel particle is just not the particle itself, okay. These tiny particles can carry many other small things, okay. pHs, okay, if the particle was not there, okay, the native particle, which could be diesel or anything, it can attach the other highly toxic compounds along with this one. It could be the pHs, it could be the pesticides, it could be the metals, and this and this. So you see here, and then we are not discussing that, but there are mechanisms even through the lungs. The lead, for example, mercury, for example, get across in the bloodstream, okay. That we are not discussing, but you see how the other hazardous pollutants also can get into the body through this route, from the particles. Large surface area and the carbon surface provide more absorption of the metals and other things. So this slide I have shown you already, but then you could be exposed through various routes. You have the indoor air pollution, okay, we should not forget about the indoor air pollution. This sometimes can be very significant. Microbes, smoking, both active and passive smoking is a serious problem, and natural dust and the allergens can also affect. Industrial and automobile emissions can affect, and this all input to the lungs, and what can happen are the there is little problem, and the COPD is again and again I say is more a problem related with the air pollution. And then I also showed you a slide last time that the mortality or deaths, okay, was on rise because of COPD. Don't misunderstand that people are dying largely because of COPD, but with the time more and more people in numbers, okay, in the relative sense are dying more because of COPD than the other diseases. But the overall deaths will be higher because of some other reasons. See, we are talking about COPD, causes of COPD. Well, that we said it could be air pollution or exposure or from the cigarette. I thought it might be a good idea to put a slide as to if there are some smokers to see what really the kind of the cigarette contains. Is a percent of total effluent, of course, significant amount of particulate. Nitrogen is a major component. Oxygen is, see, normal air will have 21% oxygen, okay. You have 13, reduced significantly. Carbon monoxide is 3.2%, okay. So we are talking in the air some ppm level. Here we are talking about the percentage in cigarette, okay. And then carbon dioxide is, of course, that's fine, 13.6. And hydrogen, argon, that's fine, water vapor, hydrocarbons, okay. You will also be surprised that it might contain a little bit of cyanide as well, okay. Not so much to really worry about, but then these are the issues. So, so much has been reported about the cigarette and cigarette smoking and the problems and things like that. So, if you are smoking cigarette, you not only affect the people around you, you affect yourself, but the people around you. And that's why the issue of the passive smoking becomes so serious. The poor fellow is not smoking, but is affected because somebody else is smoking. That's how you have all the rules and regulations and like the laws. You cannot smoke in the parks, in the public buildings. You need to go out and things like that. And so the cigarette smoking, so that at least maybe you have taken a voluntary risk, but because of you, no one else is put onto the risk or the trouble. Okay, so lots of studies. I mean, in fact, you'll be surprised that some of our students also died. It has come down, as I understand. There was a lot of smoking habits in the students. So what was happening, like one of the projects which I done in this course was one fellow, he modeled the effect of smoking in the hostel. Of course, he didn't get very good results, but then he says that about 40% of students were smoking in his wing. And then he said how it could possibly affect the other students living in the wings. That he did the project for this very same course, the 606. And that was very interesting. I mean, see, the idea of the project, if you want to do, you can do literature survey and all. If you can apply something somewhere, it doesn't matter, what kind of results you're getting horrible results or, but it is a thought which you somehow put in. He modeled the wind and he modeled, okay, so that the time of the person, likely to smoke is this one. At that time, if this room is open or that room is open, the person could be affected with that level and things like that, it's just a small project, but very, very nicely done, not at the level of that it can be published somewhere, but it was very well thought and well executed. Where were we? Okay. So, that is fine. Maybe someone would leave smoking if somebody is smoking in class. Okay. Aromatic fraction, let's forget about this. Okay. So, when we're talking about the oxides of nitrogen, how is that really the impact is? Why it happens that it is able to destroy the system of the mucociliary system? See, what happens is, normally when you look at this, right now you're looking at the right bronchi, okay, and then you see the body is in a very controlled way, it releases mucus, okay. Mucus helps trapping the dust from the air because you have the particles that can trap the particles, and then you remember I used the word mucociliary elevator, okay. In fact, in the lungs, the direction through which the mucus is traveling, okay, is in the opposite direction, against the gravity. okay, and it slowly pushes, it can come up to here, and then you swallow. So the particles which were there here, they will eventually come into your stomach or whatever, and then come out from the body. So, but then you see, normally you will see the structure like this. Okay, what happens the moment you are attacked by the smoking or the air pollution, doesn't matter, or oxides or nitrogen, body feels that it is in trouble. Okay, so then it tends to produce more and more mucus, because that is what you understand, this is the defense mechanism it has. So it will produce excess mucus and then inflammatory edema. Edema is again more of the moisture which is present here. Bronchi leads to the obstruction. After the pipe, the diameter of the pipe is the same. Okay, and then more and mucus will come, then you feel the obstruction. The moment you feel the obstruction, your breathing becomes the problem, serious problem. And it can become so much, and I'll show you some picture. Okay, this is at the mucus level. By entrainment of the air alveoli and destruction of the alveoli was reduction in the lung capacity. But I was talking about this one, that we have talked already. But you will see some of the pictures. Okay, this is what is normally things look like, inner lining of the normal bronchi. Okay, for the details of this. Sorry. Okay. This is a normal thing. This is the mucus which little bit comes onto the surface from here, and this is your cilia, little hairy structure. When the person is exposed to higher pollution of the particles and as well as the NOx, for example, you see here, you can't see, but this is the layer. Okay, this is written mucus here. So it can really release lots of mucus. Okay, the body thinks it's in trouble. Okay. Whereas, I mean, it is a NOx or the particles, and as a result what happens, you will see here, and then the cilia also becomes so much mucus, the cilia also becomes unable to expel the dirt accumulated in the lungs. This causes the thick sputum to develop, and then as a result, this idea, this mucus and sputum should also travel, right? It is not stationary. It takes the particles and it travels like a mucociliary elevator against the gravity. But then it becomes so thick, then it stops there. Okay, then there is obstruction, then you have to cough, and then then you have to take your body mechanism, you try very hard to take this one out, and if it becomes dry and thick, it becomes even more problem. And the problem because of this that will happen is, first level looking nice, neatness, the mucus layer will go increase and increase, and the diameter that are available for air to travel or air to pass through becomes smaller and very small. Here you see, and then you have all kinds of obstruction problem. You feel you can't breathe, and you have lots of difficulty. You cough, and it becomes very, very difficult. Like so. That's what is what I was referring to and that leads to the obstruction. So thickness of the bronchial tubes and the alveoli. So this causes a narrowing of the inside of the tubes and a decrease in the capacity of the lungs to exchange the oxygen and CO2, and then you breathe more and more. Okay, you breathe more and more. You remember the heart is pumping the things two sides. One side is pumping the impure blood towards the lung, right? The other side is pumping it to the body. Okay, and then you see the thing is, when the heart also finds obstruction on the lung side. Okay, so obviously it finds the obstruction, then you want to work hard, like you want to clean the thing. So it tend to work more harder to push the blood towards the lung side, and lung is obstructed. Okay, the things are not happening there. So sometimes the portion, which is the right portion of the lung, can be enlarged because it has to work hard, and then the related issues. So this is what is the issue. Now what happens at the alveoli level? Okay, there's a nice looking normal alveoli, but the particles come and deposit here, and then these walls are broken. Okay, so so many pockets you had, where things can be stored and partial pressure could be developed. Okay, and suppose I have little small pockets where like balloon, and suppose I break the 2, 3, 4 balloon, I break them. Okay, so then it can't hold on to the air, it can't develop the partial pressure, the elasticity is gone, and then what it can happen in the COPD is that you have broken the walls and then become more of a dead space, and elasticity is gone. So your capacity of the lung is gone. So this is what is a typical picture where the walls are gone, you know, like, and this is just, there's no way you can regenerate them. But it happens with the age as well as with the pollution problem. This is clean lungs, this is a little dirty lungs with the smoker's lung, and then you can see that one affected by the COPD. But this is an extreme situation. Person who has been smoking for the long time. I mean, you know, like. Okay, I want to quickly, before we end, I want to talk about lead. Okay, lead was a serious problem, and still it is a serious problem. Lead is versatile heavy metal, extensively used. I mean, you'll be surprised that even this thing would have a lot of lead in there. Okay, so the idea of the lead was it's very cheap, useful, easy to mine. Okay, physical properties, and which is very useful. So you can find it in air, food, water, and soil everywhere. But the problem, it is a cumulative neurotoxin, and for example, it has no biological function in the body. Again, a little story. You'll be surprised. I was in Delhi yesterday, and we were discussing some standards for the see how with your background how you like to, how different people will argue the different things, and this is truly this happened. So we are trying to say, okay, the emissions of arsenic and tin, and we need to reduce, you know, from particular process. So people were sitting, people were from the industry, they were there, and that's how the people argue for their case. The point which I am trying to make here, every metal, even the cigarette smokers, they argue from the point of that body needs nicotine, and in fact we do need nicotine in the body, but that kind of nicotine we get from the normal our diet and things like that. So but the lead has no beneficial effect in the body. I mean, at least not known. If something is there, but in fact, it's a contrary to a serious problem. Okay, and we'll see what are the serious problems of this one. You see, largely the lead is in the batteries, huge amount. Okay, and then pigments and things like that, and cable sheathing I was talking about. This cable probably would have lead. In ammunition, we all know lead is used. It's a cable sheathing. And petrol additives. Petrol additives is very small quantity here, somewhere here. Okay, but the problem of this thing is particularly very much because this comes to the environment. Okay, the way you tackle the hazardous pollutants or hazardous metal is these metals will be there. I mean, you can't change lead into something else. Okay, that's out of question. Okay, unless the nuclear engineers can do something. So that is out of question. So what you do, all control or the management of hazardous metal is, of course, prevent the emissions, but somehow fix them so that they don't come back to the environment. That is all hazardous management is. You know, you can't sometimes, organic things you can destroy, but the elemental things you can't destroy. So somehow you use this hazardous waste put in the cement industry. Okay, put in the cement making process, so they will be part of the cement. Once it is into the cement, it doesn't come out so easily. So in the cement kilns, a lot of hazardous waste is fired in the cement kiln, and these metals and all, they become part of the cement, and then they are very strongly in the bond form. It will never come out. You know, even if some metal is there, how would that come out? But whereas the asbestos, that come out very easily. So asbestos is a serious problem. Okay, where were we? So this is a problem because this comes out in the environment, whereas the huge amount of the lead that we use is in the batteries. So not such a serious problem. And we all know this is recycled and things like that. Anyway, the thing which we are talking about, the health effects of this is the topic. And I'll just go hit 4 times and you see whatever toxic effect that you can think of lead has. Okay, it is gametotoxic. It means affect the cell. Okay, it can destroy the cell. Okay, embryotoxic. It affects the embryo. Okay, so the very embryo is affected. Okay, and it is a carcinogenic. Okay, it causes cancer, which is it uncontrolled cell growth, and the cell cancer is something, it uncontrolled cell growth, which the cell performs something other than what it's supposed to. That's what the cancer is. Okay, you have cell, it has a particular function, so it doesn't do that function, it does something else. Okay, so that's where you have the, so it is proven carcinogenic. It is also called teratogenic, means effect on embryo is very formation of the embryo, it can produce the abnormal species. Okay. So this what is the effect that you can clearly see, like the long-term effects and things like that. The other thing is, well, I'm going a little bit on to the little details. The body and the bones. Lead is also called bone-seeking element. The problem with the body and body understanding is, body when it comes to the absorption of calcium cannot differentiate between calcium and the lead. So or in fact it slightly has a more affinity towards lead. So you have the doses high in the lead as well as the calcium, because bones we need the calcium not only for its growth but also the bones will store calcium. Now at this age, suppose I want to take lots of calcium, my body still will not retain calcium, but the childhood, whatever the calcium is taken, that is proven more important than what I can take the calcium now. So that is the bones absorbed. So, but then suppose at the same time you also have the lead. So body would absorb lead, or the bones will absorb lead rather than absorb the calcium. Okay, so the person will be weak onto the bones. So, so apart from that, there is confusion. So lead is also called and it goes and stored in the bone marrow. I don't know how much you understand about the bone marrow. So it is there. And then interesting part about the lead, it stops at the bone, and then now at the older age, like the bones tend to leave out the calcium. Okay, so now the person at the older age may realize now the lead is being given out by the bones. Okay, in pregnancy, the lead levels in the blood in the woman, it goes up, because whatever the lead is there, it tend to come out from the bones and things like that during that time. Anyway, so these are the effects. Okay, I'll pass on this one. But other immediate effects that you see is damage the central nervous system. Okay, and what it causes, proven, documented, published, established. Okay, so we are not talking anything in the air. Causes reduction in IQ. The poor children, like they may be good, but they lived very close to the roadside, and their IQ levels are low. And then attention span is gone. I mean, it reduces. Somebody can study for like 2 hours with concentration, and if people who are affected by the lead pollution, they cannot have the attention span is low. Affects the mental and physical development, reading and learning disabilities. Okay, hyperactivity and other behavioral problems, impairs the formation of the hemoglobin. Okay, it can also cause anemia. Irreversible brain damage because of that. It can even cause a death, higher concentration, and whose children are the larger problem, because they take the greater lead intake per unit body weight, because they always take more, greater net respiratory intake, they also take more air per unit body weight, greater absorption, because their body is growing, the body mechanism, they can, if they eat more, they can absorb more. So if the pollution is there, then they can absorb more. Greater absorption and retention in the digestive system. Certain defense mechanism is not yet developed in the children, so they become very serious problem. Expectant mothers, their body becomes to absorb more and more, because that is the time they need more nutrition and things like that. But the lead has been again proven, okay, is cause miscarriages, stillbirths that we have seen about the teratogenic as well as the gametotoxic. Death of the newborn also have been related to the lead pollution. So that's why lead had all kinds of serious problems, and therefore all the countries in the world have gone unleaded. So let's not discuss this. But then the roots can be both from the food, water, soil and air. Air also, of course, the air level is come down, but we still have some lead in the food and water. And let me also tell you that blood lead level, just for the information, is the indicator of how the person is, how far he would be affected because of lead pollution. So blood samples are really taken, okay, and seen what is the blood level, and then how the science has changed, okay. And this is reference from CDC. And you see here in 1995, people thought, read here microgram per deciliter, okay, microgram per deciliter. People thought, well, if it was in 1965, if the blood lead levels are lower than 60 microgram per deciliter, everything was fine. the person will not suffer because of the lead toxicity and adverse effects of the lead. People do more and more science, your instrument goes up, your technology goes up, and then your techniques improve. In 1975 they said, well, 60 is no good. The lead blood level should be less than 40 microgram per deciliter. Then again it happened, like in 1975 it was 30 and stayed 30 for many years. Okay. But 1985 people said like around 24. Okay. By the time it was 1991, more science came up and said it should be 10. Okay. The recent paper, okay, in 2003, now they're talking even below 10 microgram per deciliter. Maybe adults are safe, but children gets affected because of this one. Okay. So so acceptable level in 1991, which is by and large still acceptable, okay, but it is now believed that even we need to go below 10 microgram per deciliter. So this is the story of lead, and that is how you see here. Even lead exposure, let me quickly give this one. See, it's from the air route. This is food, this is water, and air route. It's not small. I mean, the air route was one of this. So with unleaded thing, this part has mostly gone, but this is still there. And so we have lots of lead in the soil and things like that. So argument of the ITRC person is not tenable, because we will always have enough into the soil that, you know, like that it will produce the required amount of metals and things like that. But anyway, lead is not required for the body. No useful biological function lead has. Okay, we will stop there. Okay, we can just go on, but we will stop there. But what I will do is I will pass on some more material for you to read, and also the pollution also affects the building, the properties, and textile, and it also affects the plants and the crops. Okay, but we can't go so much into detail this course, but you should read from some books, you know, little information as to how it can affect the plant. Chlorosis is there, fluorosis is there, and that sort of thing. The leaf area reduces, the crop yield reduces, and things like that. Ozone causes serious problem to many things. So either I'll pass on that to you, but we will not cover in this course. But you still read those, because that's very important, because that's part of the course, the effects and things. Because effect is an interesting area, but then we can't go on more than 2 lectures on this one, and we stop here.